What is going on, guys? Again, it is Dex, and I am here on Marfoogle News. I am filling in again for Adam tonight, so please bear with me, and welcome all of you. I really appreciate you being here. Let's just jump right in to the news, and I'll get into some of the intro stuff in a little bit. Look, as it stands right now, the U.S. is actually ordering a pullout of many of the embassy personnel from Niger. If you're not familiar with what's going on there, there's a military coup that was underway. It actually happened a couple days ago. Things are getting a little out of hand, and they're, I guess, maybe getting ahead of some of the problems they've seen with other instances. I think the thing they were hoping for, I think EU actually pulled out or started to pull out yesterday. Some of the countries in Europe were doing that, but I think what they were hoping for is by sticking around, maybe they could force the elected official to remain in power as opposed to the military coup that's taken over. But they have not been successful at pushing that. So look, we have basically, diplomats are now starting to gather up, get their stuff, get ready to get out. The big question is, can they get out? How are they going to get out? And what are the orders? So that's what's underway at the moment. It's getting started. So let's just talk a little bit about it. So Robert Strike, who owns a firm that extracts Americans in danger overseas, said that he was, quote unquote, contacted by senior members of the United States government to inquire about the ability to move U.S. citizens out of Niger due to the escalating concerns of violence. They then went on to say that they're actually going to officially start moving officials out. So they've ordered this partial. In some places are reporting it as a partial order, and others are just saying they're ramping up. I think it's going to be a complete ramp up by this time. By the time you're watching this, we're probably going to see a full on evac of any of the officials there. The other interesting thing that you need to note, though, is Wagner forces are now in Niger. And with what's going on with the military coup, what kind of involvement may actually happen with them and the U.S. military? Because we have about 1,100 troops on the ground there. And it's at Air Base 101 in Niamey and Air Base 201 in Agadez. So we have a whole lot of troops there, but there's also now Wagner forces, which have been deployed across Western African nations like Mali and others, but there are some in Niger. And will that cause a conflict? And will the U.S. military actually be going up head to head with them? That actually did happen in Syria back in 2018. So that's not a new event, but it is quite possible we would see this in this. So look, we got this. We got a lot more. There's the nuclear generals have been fired and replaced. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. So sit tight. I'll be right back right after this.
Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
All right. Well, we're back, folks. And again, this is Dex, and I'm filling in for Adam, who's away taking care of some family stuff. Don't worry. Everything is fine. Adam's doing just well. Look, if you're new here and you don't know about our website, so go to marfooglenews.com, and you can find this thumbnail, which is a thumbnail for this show, and it'll take you to this webpage, which has all of the information we're going to cover. So make sure you're checking that out. If you want to follow along, or you hear an article and you want to see the rest of it, or you're looking for references to things that I'm going to talk about tonight, it's right here on our website. So make sure you head over to marfooglenews.com click on the thumbnail for the show. While you're here, up at the top, we have our friends, which I'll talk about that later. We also have alerts. You can sign up for our email list. We don't really send a lot of emails. We probably should start sending more, but that is really our backup. If something happens and we got to notify you, or if we know something is really about to go down and it's the only way to communicate, email is a great backup solution. So sign up there if you want to have it and have access to that. You also can reach Play My Video. That's if you have any content that you've created, that you've uploaded to YouTube, go there and submit it and send it to us, and we'll take a look and see if it's something we can use. Again, marfooglenews.com, easy to get to. Let's jump right into the rest of the news and what's going on. So speaking of evacuations, not just in Niger, but there was one that happened today on the Hill. Apparently it was a bogus call, but it caused a whole lot of pandemonium. And of course, this is on the eve of an arraignment, a big arraignment that's about to happen. So, but the U.S. Cappo actually evacuated the Senate office building after getting reports of an active, and they could not find anything. When I originally was watching this and listening to it, there was absolutely no reports of hearing it. All they had was they were responding to it. So everybody was sort of going, where's it happening? What's going on? And of course, now it's turned out to be a false alarm and not something that was necessarily real, but it was real in the sense that the people who worked there were all quickly evacuated out or evacuated to their safe zones. So kind of a big deal, big event that happened today in DC. So if you didn't hear it, that's what's going on. Get this. So we talk a lot about UFOs, and we talk a lot about them in the U.S. and what's happened with our military. But there's a really interesting story that I saw, and I think I've heard a little bit about this, and maybe you have, but maybe you haven't. They actually allegedly took control of Russian ICBMs, and Russians actually tried to shoot them. They had fighter pilots trying to take out UFOs. So that's the alleged story here. This is one of the many stories that was talked about on Capitol Hill, but this one's kind of interesting because it's in another country. It's not something that, we talk about the tic-tac UFOs. We've talked a lot about the different military folks that have said they've seen different things, and the whistleblowers as well. But so this one, Russian fighter jets once fired at a possible extraterrestrial life form after a pair of UFOs nearly caused WW3 to break out, according to sworn testimony. So according to Knapp, there was a time when the Russian military actually deployed the fighter jets. It said in the testimony, Knapp said that the Russians had carried out what may have been the largest ever investigation in history, spanning a decade in the entire breadth of the Russian military echelon. He said that he had spoken with officials there, Colonel Boris Sokolov, who said that there had been no less than 45 different incidents where Russian fighter jets had clashed with UFOs, with Russian jets crashing in 3 of these incidents, resulting in actually the perishing of 2 pilots. So that was new to me. I didn't hear that. One of the incidents that really raised the alarm bells was the ICBM base in UKR. Actually, this was a while back, obviously, when it was under Russian control or USSR control. But according to Sokolov, somehow it took over the launch system. It said the UFOs appeared over the base, performed astonishing maneuvers in front of stunned eyewitnesses, and then somehow took control of the launch systems. The missiles were aimed at the U.S. and were suddenly fired up. The launch control codes were somehow entered, and the base was unable to stop what could have initiated the next big conflict. Then, just as suddenly as the UFOs appeared, they quickly disappeared, and as soon as they disappeared, the launch control systems shut back down. Obviously, that sounds to me, if it's true, like hey, we look what we can do to you. You shouldn't be doing this. Or maybe it was some other tech, from an adversary that was doing that and scaring them. Or was it possible that aliens were sort of, shaking down the leadership over there, saying, look, if you don't do what we need, this is what we'll do to you. I don't know. You tell me. Let us know in the comments below. But after these incidents, the Russian Defense Ministry supposedly issued a hands-off order for UFOs, which they said should be left alone since they, quote, they may have incredible capacities for retaliation. So why is that country saying hands off, but the U.S. is sort of running around saying, we don't worry about that. UAPs are not a big deal. Matter of fact, we won't even call them UFOs. We're going to call them UAPs, and we don't think they present a threat. So it's very much a different position that the U.S. has had versus the one that the Russians have had. So what do you think? Do you find that interesting? Have you heard of any other stories like this? If you have, let us know in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Listen, we've talked a lot about WorldCoin in the I think maybe 2 shows ago or 3 shows ago. This is the new crypto. It's really a digital identity, but it's based on the blockchain. So it's got a whole crypto angle to it, and obviously a crypto coin, as they call it. And it's the thing that you go get your irises scanned. So you, like this gentleman's doing right here, you look into this weird spherical ball and get your eyes scanned. Well, the system they're trying to build is one in which that creates digital identity and unique identity. They're trying to create an ID for every single person on Earth, and do it in a way that they can label that as a unique individual, among many other things. Well, they just announced that they are actually going to make this functionality available to governments to use. So WorldCoin will expand its operations to sign up more users globally and aims to allow other organizations to use its iris scanning and identity verifying technology, a senior manager for the company behind the project told Reuters. The co-founder, which is Sam Altman, that name you probably have heard. He's from OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. He launched this last week, requiring users to give their iris scans in exchange for digital ID. And in some countries, they were giving away free crypto. In my opinion, it looked like they were targeting underdeveloped or less fortunate countries because they would give them free money basically to get their irises scanned. But it wasn't that way in every country. But free cryptocurrency was part of the plan to create this identity and financial network. So in the signups around the world, people have been getting their faces scanned by a shiny spherical orb, shrugging off the privacy campaigners, which that's what we talked about. I think it was France, I believe Germany or someone else has started to look into it too, because of the concerns about all this biometric data. And not just that they're collecting it, that's kind of a scary thought, but what could happen? What misuse could be done with it? Who gets access to it? Will it really be destroyed, or will they actually keep it? And would somebody else have access to it? That's what's really concerning. WorldCoin does say they have 2.2 million have already signed up, mostly during the trial period over the last 2 years, but I think that number has just grown significantly now that they rolled this out. But they're on a mission to bringing this financial and identity community to the market, and this whole notion of giving access to governments is really concerning, and this is why. If you recall, I want to say about 5 weeks ago, we were talking about the Homeland Security, the TSA, and other departments of the U.S. government were putting out a request for this tech demo challenge. The tech demo challenge was specifically held to with the NSIT, the RIVT, in a series of technology challenges to evaluate the ability of systems to authenticate identity documents and assess the quote-unquote liveliness of selfie photos and evaluate identity verification using images taken with smartphone devices. So it is absolutely clear that the government wants a way to identify you online, to be able to know that you're taking a true picture or that you're really that identity. And WorldCoin is stepping in with actually a much different solution, but it is a solution, and they're now going to say they're going to open this up to governments to use. So will WorldCoin become that de facto platform that government officials or government systems start to plug into? Will we see that happen? And what are the privacy issues with that? And do we think that's a good thing? I'm kind of sketchy about it personally. I do not think the government should have as much information as they have on all of us right now. So I don't want to give them any more. definitely don't want to give them any more, but that's just my opinion. What is yours? Tell us down below. And if you don't remember the show, or you want to read more about this document, this challenge they were putting out to develop this new system for authenticating users online, and this is also for social media as well, social activity, but they wanted this to combat fraud. It would be used for Social Security, logins, things like that, anything that was government related, but also they wanted to extend this out to others. So there's a big connection here, in my opinion, between what WorldCoin is offering and what the government's trying to get accomplished. And of course, this all sort of goes right in the face of what we've seen out of China with their social credit system and how social credit scores work. So the more the government gets everything ingrained into a system, knows your identity, has the ability to turn on and off functionality or access and capabilities that you would have in your life, whether that be getting into a car, getting electricity in your home, using public transportation, all of those things could easily become something that the government could say, you know what, we don't think you should have that today because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, so we're going to take that away. And that's what we see happening every day in other countries that have these more draconian systems in place. So speaking of systems, check out the marfooglenews.com/energy, the solar generators from Energy. These are one of the best, absolute best solar generators out there. They're customizable. That's what makes them so phenomenal, is you can actually build anything from this. You can start with something simple and small all the way up to something big with 96 batteries if you're trying to completely outfit your bug out location or even your home. There's many other modifications you can make to them. You can plug in a rapid charger, which can allow you to triple your solar power and charge your entire system at 3 times the speed of just a regular set of solar panels, and much more. If you're interested in something much a lot more beefier, look at the Tactical, the Flex Tactical. I wish I had this. I actually have the Flex 1500 when it first came out. I love that. It's a great system. This Tactical is like the 1500 on steroids. It's got a whole bunch of cool features that the U.S. military came in and said, hey, we love this energy, but we need this, this, and this. And so they put some heavy duty latches, some extra grounding, and they put some heated heaters on the batteries so they could work in sub-zero temperatures, things like that, that most of us don't really need, but some of us that just love tactical gear go, yeah, I gotta have it. So if you're interested, look, marfooglenews.com/energy. You can learn more about it. You can purchase one there. You'll get a discount and you'll help our channel. This is an affiliate of ours. We work with them. So anything you can do there would be absolutely much appreciated, but you're actually getting something in return. You're getting a great product and a discount and helping the channel out. So again, marfooglenews.com/energy. You can also use code Marfoogle, but if you use that link, it should automatically be in there. Again, and we thank you very much. Let's keep going. Look, there's the weather around the world is just, it's nuts. Every time we turn around, there's something going on. Or as some have pointed out, it's actually being hyped up. But sometimes it's hard to hype up things. Like, it's easy to say, yeah, it's crazy, it's 110 in Phoenix. Well, it gets 110 in Phoenix, and maybe the numbers were there for most consecutive days, but a lot of people that live there say, come on, guys, it's always, we get 110 all the time. It's nothing to cry about. But things like this, a massive amount of rain and flooding in China's capital in Beijing, and pictures, don't lie. So China's capital, Beijing, has been pummeled by the heaviest rainfall in 140 years. That's crazy. I don't think we have any other images, but if you go check out the article, I think they produced a whole bunch of images that are happening around Beijing, but it is literally a massive flood zone throughout there. At the time that this article was written, there was about 20 people who had perished already. According to Chinese authorities, the city recorded 744.8 millimeters or 30 inches of rainfall between Saturday to Wednesday. 30 inches. Maybe if you live in Seattle where it rains all the time, that's not a lot to you, but I don't know. Where I am, if we had 30 inches in a few days, that would be unheard of. And we actually had something similar to that, but it was nowhere near 30 inches when we had our 500-year flood, and it was kind of crazy. So interesting things happening in the weather, lots of stuff going on. This is what's going down in China right now. People are actually having massive effects from this. So it's not a good thing. It's one of those things you should think about, like preparing for. How can you prepare for this? Do you even know if you live in a flood zone? Can it flood where you live? That's a great question. And a lot of people, when these types of events happen, like in this case, 140-year version, in the case I lived through, we had a 500-year flood, like once in 500 years. And it was interesting to me because there was a lot of places around here that I never expected would see floodwaters, because you just didn't realize there was a creek or there was something over here. And all of a sudden, when it rose up 10 feet, all of the roads, the houses, everything in that area were just completely, flooded. Fortunately for me, it didn't happen where I lived. I'm on a hill and wasn't susceptible to that, but the people at the bottom of the hill were, and that's very unfortunate. So definitely something to think about when you're worrying about your own preps and the different types of things that we have to be prepared to deal with. And in our case, we had roads that were out and we couldn't get anywhere for many, many, many weeks. We had to take all sorts of interesting paths to get around our damage that was out here. But it wasn't the end of the world, but it certainly wasn't a fun experience for us. And I can't imagine what it's like being in a major metropolitan area like Beijing and having just absolute flooding like this. Let's keep going, talking about China. This one's kind of crazy, and I'm very skeptical about what's going on here. But Xi has replaced the generals in charge of the nuclear arsenal. He is, as they say, they're spinning this as he's tightening up the grip over the military leadership. But what has happened is, two of China's top generals overseeing its nuclear missiles have been replaced with scant explanation in the biggest shakeup of the country's military leadership in a decade. Underlining Xi's commitment to tightening the control of the armed forces, two men from the outside the ranks of the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, so PLARF, but it's the Rocket Force. So these new people that are coming in are now appointed as the heads of the unit. They have nothing to do with Rocket Force. I think one of them, Hubin, is from Wang Hubin. He's from the Navy, was appointed as the commander, and Zhu Zhengsheng, I'm sure I'm butchering the name, I apologize, is from the Air Force. And it's a political commissar, which is like a military commander. So these are two people he's placed into the Rocket Force division of the Army to replace the two generals he ousted. So why is he doing that? Some are saying it's just because he wants more control. I'm questioning, were these generals not necessarily loyal, or maybe they had different opinions about what they would do in the event that nukes were going to need to be used. And maybe he feels better with the new folks because he has more control, or feels more confident that they will execute or perform what he's looking for. You tell me what you think, but this is definitely one to consider. Especially with everything ramping up with Taiwan, especially with everything ramping up with Japan and the investments that they're making from a military standpoint. So let me know, leave a comment down below. This is the big deal, in my opinion, right now, of what's happening is this change up. There's something going on here. We won't see it right away. We'll look back 6 months from now and go, aha, that's why he did it. But there's something going on. You don't just shake up your leadership like that in a big swoop without something else going on. So pay attention, folks. We'll keep watching it ourselves and see what happens. This one is kind of crazy when you think about it. So China wants to mobilize the entire nation. That means everyone, into counter-espionage. In other words, they want everybody to be a spy. So coming out of Reuters, China should encourage its citizens to join counter-espionage work, including creating channels for individuals to report suspicious activity, as well as commending and rewarding them, the state security minister said on Tuesday. A system that makes it normal for the masses to participate in counter-espionage must be established, wrote the Ministry of State Security. It's the main agency that overlooks the foreign intelligence and the anti-spying. So what I understand they're trying to do is create a system where everyone in the population can oust anybody that they think is doing something wrong around espionage. So the call to popularize anti-spying work among the masses follows an expansion of China's counter-espionage law that took effect in July. So if you remember, we reported about those legal changes, and on the surface, they didn't look like a lot, and we weren't really sure how they were going to leverage them. Some of the pundits said it seemed like there was not a lot of substance to what the laws that were changing at the time, that it wasn't a big obvious thing. But in this case, it seems like as it relates to espionage, or at least the counter espionage specifically, the laws are very clear that they put in effect in July, and this is where they're going to sort of latch onto it. So it says the law, which bans the transfer of information related to national security and interest, which does not specify, has alarmed the United States, saying foreign companies in China could be punished for regular business activities. So we had talked about some of these companies that have interests in China. So a company that may have offices in China, but they're a U.S. company or something else. They were getting raided. They were literally getting, the offices were getting shut down. Everybody was, being detained, and there was no explanation given. This was happening I think it was in the financial sector when we were reported, at least the one or two companies we talked about, they were in the financial sector. They did a lot of reporting on the public, or what should be public information about financial companies or companies that are traded on the stock exchanges. So they went in and they raided some of them. But it seems like that this law that they put in place in July is very, very much tailored towards giving more power for them to go after foreign companies that are in their country and treating them as if they are, foreign adversaries in espionage. So the revised laws allow authorities carrying out an anti-espionage probe to gain access to data, electronic equipment, and information on personal property. So imagine, a large company has data over there, has data here, and they get seized. They could have access to looking at that data and any connected data that may come from that. So that could be a big security violation. It could also give China the ability to grab one of the companies that they think they have or need information out of, and use this as a mechanism in which they can get that. So kind of crazy. And then of course, personal property, obviously that makes sense. That kind of stuff goes hand in hand with, when you're arresting people around anti-espionage. But the expansion of these laws, I think, are what's crazy. And I think when we think about how they have policed their citizens with technology, we have to sort of look at this through that lens and be like, okay, where are they going to take this next? And, it's definitely not going down the path of more freedoms. It's definitely down a path of control from the government, and allowing and giving the government a maximum amount of control over the subjects that they rule over. So not necessarily a good thing at all. Let's move over from Asia and let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Europe. So as we've covered before, and you guys all know, Finland is now part of NATO. Obviously, they were accepted in, and they moved their troops. Some of their troops have moved to the border, etc. Well, now they're moving British Typhoons to a forward base near Russia. So this is a big deal. They're moving the Eurofighter Typhoons from the Royal Air Force, and they're saying they're moving them under this guise or banner of Exercise Justen Strike, but which is really training with the FA-18 Hornets that the Finnish have, or Finland has. So that's the excuse they're giving, but in reality what's happening is they're moving a whole lot of jets to the front lines, or putting them right there at a forward base right there in Finland. So I expect to see potentially some pushback on Russia's point of view on this. They will probably, we've seen other movements in Poland that cause Belarus to do things. We've seen movements in Belarus that cause Poland to do things. This type of activity, unless it's truly training and it's very short-lived and they pull back out, It very much looks like they're actually doing this to move equipment into the front line and get it right there. So an official statement published by the UK Ministry of Defence, the RAF said the Royal Air Force Typhoon fighter jets that were already deployed in Eastern Europe temporarily relocated to Finland. So that's the guys temporarily, they're saying. They're doing it to do air-to-air combat, as well as doing testing of striking ground targets and precision boom booms. So let's see how long this lasts. They were stationed in Estonia, which is not that far away. It's still in the eastern side of Europe, but moving them to the front lines or a forward base in Finland is a big step. So let's see how long they stay and if they actually get pulled back away. That's the real question. All right, moving along, just a heads up, marfooglenews.com/EMP, another one of our affiliates. If you don't know what an EMP shield is, go check it out. This will protect you against EMPs, coronal mass ejections, and lightning. It is a very cool product that can protect your home, your car, your bug-out vehicles, your side-by-sides, anything with an engine and electronics, any type. If you have a bug-out location with solar panels and power, you should have an EMP shield on those systems so that you're protecting them in the event of an EMP. This device has been tested to the military specs at a military testing facility, and I think they went through over 42 different strikes against it in a row. It was able to withstand it and keep on going, had zero degradation, and was able to kill off the entire spike that comes into those electrical systems, whether it be in a car or in a house. So basically anything plugged in, your car will keep running or will crank right back up. Your house, everything in it, your fridge, your other equipment that are plugged in will survive that surge that would happen that would normally fry everything. So go check it out. If you want to learn more, marfooglenews.com/EMP, you get a special discount, $50 off each device you purchase. And that's on top of whatever sale they got going on. And they always have a sale. So go check it out before I think there's a sale right now. So check it out before it's gone. EMP shield. This is the micro, real simple, red to red on the battery, black to negative on the battery, green to ground in your vehicle, and you're good. Whether that's a side-by-side, a motorcycle, or a full automobile, they've got you covered. So marfooglenews.com/EMP. All right. So listen, the Wagner folks are basically this back and forth right now with Poland is just, it seems like it's escalating quite a bit. You know, we had the alleged incursion, which I talked about last night with the attack helicopters. We also have the movement of the Wagner troops, the tunnels, the encampments that they've been building and setting up that are all near the border. And it's looking like, you know, from Poland's point of view, they're very concerned that it looks like everything in Belarus is being set up to do an invasion into Poland. So what has happened is the U.S. ambassador to the UN has come out and said specifically, hey, if the Wagner attacks Poland, they're going to treat it as a Russian attack on NATO. In other words, not just a Belarusian thing, but it will be considered Russia as well. So that's a bigger deal in the sense that you think about if Lukashenko was truly all in on his own and he did this, then NATO would go after, you know, Belarus alone. They would have to do Article 5 against them. But they're saying, look, if this happens because of the tight connections with Lukashenko, with Russia, and the fact that the Wagner group, which was Russian, is now in Belarus, then they're going to consider whatever action may come of them to be considered an action from Russia. So the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said at a press conference back in July that we have information that more than 100 Wagner mercenaries have advanced towards the Suwałki Gap, not far from Grodno in Belarus. Wagner fighters had arrived in Belarus last month after the, you know, fake coup event or whatever you want to call that happened. We don't know. It just seems so unlikely that that's what was happening there. But anyway, the Polish Minister of National Defense announced on July 27th that a training academy for HIMARS, the High Mobility artillery rocket system, and mentioned its utility against Russia. So the Poles are basically, ramping up their, I think they brought in Patriots, which we talked about a while back. They got them from another country and they put them on the front line. They bought and deployed the HIMARS. They've got that in place now. And they've been moving all of their troops, a lot of their troops. We've just talked about it yesterday or the day before. They doubled up again the troops on the border, all because of this. So, as it says, they're planning to wield the HIMARS to deter Russia. I want to say these were delivered in May. I cannot remember right off the top of my head, but yeah. It says, today we see the HIMARS in action with a range of 300 kilometers. The Polish army can fire at long distances. Our task is to equip it with proven weapons that deter aggressors, which will make Russia not dare to attack Poland in the hands of Polish soldiers trained both in the United States and Poland. So, they have them, as you can see in the pictures, because I want to say they were delivered in May. I don't know if it says that here or not, but it was a big deal. Yeah, $414 million deal back in 2019, and the HIMARS actually got into the country of May this year. Get this, though, they've also spent $13.7 billion arms deal with SK, South Korea, to buy Chumu rocket launchers, K2 main battle tanks, and K9 self-propelled boom booms, and FA-50 fighter aircraft. So if you don't think they're preparing, if you don't think there's a conflict about to go down with Poland, this has been planned since 2019. This has been planned long before then. And the amount of money they're spending, the amount of armament they're buying, even in the one deal from South Korea, is significant, let alone what we've given them and what they get from being a NATO member, which is also significant. Now, by the way, Russia has been pointing to the fact that they think that Poland is going to be trying to claim some of the lands in UKR. So Russia has actually said that it's their opinion that Poland will revanchist ambitions, that they'll try to reacquire what they believe was their historical territory. And so if you sort of know the history of UKR, the western portion, there's a lot of Polish influence there. The far eastern portion is mostly Russian. And then, of course, blended in the middle. And I'm sure there's a lot more. And I don't want to people from UKR are probably going to say, Dex, man, you don't know anything about our history. And you're right, I don't. But at a high level, there's influence from that. And there's also land disputes, just like we see Russia with a land dispute, at least as they claim, as why they've been attacking and going into UKR is to get back portions of the land that they wanted or they wanted to annex because of as they said, it was the people that were there that were from a Russian heritage and not being treated right from UKR's point of view. Now, on the far other end of the country, on the western side, you've got the Polish portion. So Russia is putting this narrative out that they say Poland wants to take back that territory. Now, we haven't actually heard anything come from them saying they're going to do that, but it certainly is an interesting point of view. And as we watch everything ramp up between Poland, between Belarus, with UKR, and obviously with Russia in that area, everything is just getting really, it's almost like a powder keg. It's really ready to pop, more so than it has already. Obviously, UKR is a mess, but when it hits NATO and it hits the rest of the countries, then we're in for a much different conflict when everybody has to start getting engaged. And I hope and pray that doesn't happen. I hope it finally just settles down. I'd like to think that this is just yet again another, multi-year proxy that the military-industrial complex is using to, fill their pocketbooks and create and develop more and more equipment and send it out. It's unfortunate for the folks that live in the locations where these proxy events happen, but, they were all over the ME. Multiple countries there have had them for many, many decades. And now it looks like this is going to Europe, but it doesn't look like it's there. But the question is it going to get bigger, and is it going to go full scale with NATO and Russia? That's the real question. All right, more talk about Belarus. So We spoke last night about this helicopter incident, and Poland alerted NATO, and they made the claims that Belarus had flown attack helicopters at low altitude and across the border and came into their country. And that action alone, if true, is one that you would say, yeah, that's kind of creepy and scary. And what are the effects of that? Because they could have easily, kicked off an event, because flying that low, you're obviously evading radar. That's the exact type of thing you would do if you were trying to start something. Well, Belarus has come out and said, hey, that's not true. We didn't do it. We ran our drills, and they prepared and put together a presentation to the Polish side, and they detailed all the data from the aircraft flights, and they presented it, and they showed that they did not cross the line. So I don't know who to believe here. You tell me. But if Poland is saying they did it and it didn't happen, why were they saying that? If it did happen, then why is Belarus saying no? It's not like that incursion is anything more than a slap on the wrist, because nothing actually happened from it. But for them to say it didn't happen, maybe it paints a picture back to Poland to make them look like, hey, they're just making stuff up and trying to create, a Fantastic Freddy type event. Maybe that's what was underway, or maybe that's what they're trying to set the stage for. So very interesting situation coming out of Belarus, this back and forth. It'd be a lot easier to sort of understand it if they just said, yeah, we screwed up. We crossed the thing. We're sorry. Let's move on. Yeah, we're enemies. But, that wasn't the real deal. But for them to come out and provide proof, provide all of the, flight path and information from the flight data on the helicopters and say, look, we didn't actually cross the border. That's kind of interesting, because now you're going to go look at Poland and say, okay, well, why did you say that? And what information did you have? So we'll watch. This may turn out to be more of a back and forth, or it may just, go off into the Netherlands of the internet and not be something that's spoken of anymore. One more thing I want to talk about. This was very fascinating. It's obviously something we all know, Project Paperclip, all those, types of things that we just assume happen with Ganda, with, obviously this 3-letter agency here, and what they're able to do. But when you think about, we think about them with the media, we think about them with lots of other things they do, but Wikipedia is one of those areas where it's being not even suggested, but identified by the former founder, Larry Sanger. So he had an interview, and basically what he said was like, look, I have evidence that goes back as early as 2008 that shows both 3-letter agencies, the C and the F, that their computers were actually editing Wikipedia. In other words, the government was trying to write what they thought or they wanted history or information to be on Wikipedia. And now, as you probably all know, a lot of people, there's plenty of people that don't like what's on Wikipedia, or they think it's got a slant to it, and it probably does to some extent. I'm not here to judge that, but I do find it very fascinating when evidence is shown in statements from people that are in the know to clearly, show that the government was editing the content that was on there and being able to control that content. So it was first made public back in 2007. A programming student named Virgil Griffith, he actually wrote a program called Wikiscanner, and it could trace the location of computers that were used to edit any of the articles that were on Wikipedia. And they found that both the C and the F, those 3-letter agencies here, were hosting and a host of large corporations and government agencies were actually scrubbing online encyclopedia of incriminating information. So anytime people were putting information in there that they didn't think should be out there, or they didn't want it out there, they were just editing it away. And so the point is, hey, they had that information back then. Do you think, and I think this was a quote from Larry. He's like, yeah, they had it back then. Do you think they just stopped? Or do you think they keep doing it today? Because he's no longer part of it. He's a founder. But he's like, look, I had this back then. I saw this. We all saw it. It was happening. Do you really think they just said, yeah, we're going to stop? No. we know they're doing it. We know the government, obviously, as we're seeing through the Twitter files, as we're seeing through the recent Facebook files, if you want to call it that came out in Congress, that our government is doing quite a bit to censor and change and update information online, whether it be on social media, which is what the current news is, or something like Wikipedia, which is supposed to be the online encyclopedia of knowledge and information. So very fascinating. I thought if you want to read more about it, we've got it there on the website for you. So anyway, folks, there's lots going on. I want to give you the rest of the story, so don't go anywhere. I know sometimes you like to bail on the overflow, but there is some other stuff happening. For those of you that are new and don't know what the overflow is, this is the rest of the story. So all the other news that we put together and the topics that we don't normally cover, some of the political stuff, will be covered here. So it's on our website. Just go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or click on the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here. So a couple things that are going on that we need to talk about. On the political spectrum, it's just getting a little nuts. So everything in with T-Man and the and now let me just jump to that because it's kind of nuts. But the assessment of the stuff going on with J6. The sheriff in Fulton County, which I don't live in Fulton County, but it's, a couple counties over. It's right here in Georgia, saying that they're ready to have a mugshot. Everyone is up in arms over this, that the U.S. versus T-Man will be like the most important case in the nation's history. And then get this, WWE boss Vince McMahon. He was raided as well as part of this. It just happened, and now he is sort of on an indefinite vacation, if you want to call it that. So law enforcement agents went to his place and served him. So lots happening in that spectrum. As far as what's going on in UKR, we do have additional updates here. So we've got the updates with the banks and operating in Russia. We've got the additional updates on Poland and Belarus about the airspace, the offensives that are going on, the tit for tat, like who's getting this land back and who's getting that land back. There's not a lot there at the moment, but there has been more attacks and damages on buildings. So this was probably the response to what we talked about last night, which was the second drone attack hitting in Moscow. Of course, then we see Russia coming back with a nighttime attack on Kiev, damaging administrative buildings. I think the first drone attack, they retaliated by hitting Zelensky's hometown and taking out apartments and other things there. So some stats here as well about what's going on with the amount of soldiers that have been lost. But again, you got to take all that with a huge grain of salt because it's always coming from the other side, and it's always painted in a way to make things look so much better for the side they're trying to represent. That's the whole point of Ganda. They want to control that narrative. So there's some other updates about China's Manila Bay, the reclamation project, as well as our current president and his son. That's always going to be in the news. And for now, at least, we've got that information there. And then, as I talked about, the Black and the Rock from last night, they're also in the news. A very interesting article about the ES and the G thing that they've got going on. So if you want to learn more about that, as well as a worker who was fired because he didn't take that thing you have to get in your arm, he got his job back, apparently. This is probably happening quite a bit now as we've seen what's changed in the rules and laws. But that's an interesting story as well. So all of that and so much more, it's on our website. Just head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link. It's going to be down below in the description. Hey, I know it's another premiere. That's what we're doing. I recorded this and then I'm uploading it, and then I'm going to hang out and chat with you guys. So I couldn't say thank you to everybody in real time because this is pre-recorded, but I do want to tell you how much I do appreciate all of you that have sat with me. I try to get the most important news out for everyone while Adam is away. We want to keep everybody up to date on what's happening and do that. And then I want to shout out to the mods. Those guys and gals are so great. I love them so much. They're here every night, especially Ilea and Jammer. They're like the cornerstones. You guys know who I'm talking about. But we do have Bones and Chance and CJ and Jem and Jammer and Lisa R. Hall, Rip Curl, RJL Harris, Ilea, Trinity Red or Blue Pill, Hi-Ho Kermit the Frog here, and Wages World. All of our fabulous mods can be easily found by going to marfooglenews.com/friends. That's this webpage. It's right at the top. Just click on the friends link. It'll take you right here. You can find their Twitter accounts, their YouTube accounts. Some of them have art that they produce and sell. Some of them do. It's all here. So if you want to support the mods, or you find a mod that you really like and you want to say hi to them, this is a great way to do it and recognize them. And we really do appreciate them. As well as you can find other creators on the friends page. The rest of the friends of Marfoogle, they're all right here. Again, marfooglenews.com/friends. Folks, I again want to thank you. I really appreciate your time spending it with me tonight. I hope you found the information I put together for you useful. If you've got questions, comments, make sure to ask them. We have one of the best communities here. Everybody in the Foogle fam, you guys are the backbone. You help one another. We talk to one another. We share information. It's incredible. I love you guys, and so please leave a comment down below. If you're in chat right now, you're probably enjoying a good time with everybody in there. So that's absolutely awesome. Again, best thing you can do to help the show, hit that share button, hit the like button. Do me a favor. If you want to help Dex out, hit the like button while Adam's away. If I can get some extra likes, that would be really cool, because I could say, look what I did. But no, seriously, the subscription button is important too, because I can't tell you how many times I hear it. People say, man, I didn't realize that I was unsubscribed. The platform did it to me. And it happens. It happens all the time. So just go over there and click on it. Check it. Make sure it's there. And while you're there, look at the bell. Make sure you're getting the notifications. Make sure it's checked to all. That would be fabulous. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. This was wonderful. I appreciate your time. I hope this was valuable to you, and I will see you. If we have more updates during the week, I'm going to come on and make sure to get you everything you need to know. All right, much love, and Dex out.
Marfoogle News.